Max Olson, theathletic.com, decompressed last week. Why? Because the transfer portal closed. He has a life too, although he does work his butt off with what he does in the transfer portal, college football, and much as a senior writer for theathletic.com. Did you just, put your phone up unless it was family calling? Did you just chill out?
I wish it was like a tropical vacation I could brag about, but no, you guys know sometimes you literally just need a couple of days at home to do housework and things that you put off the entire football season.
Max, Nicole Auerbach had an interesting article. We discussed it yesterday. I think Ross also had one, a couple of other writers, about the NCAA looking at enforcing NIL violations. Do you feel like they really have a chance to do that?
I think everyone is just, especially you hear from coaches. I know Dana Holgerson spoke on it this week and others have. I think right now coaches are just very skeptical. I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to actual enforcement. Because as we've talked about before, when I've been on, I just don't think anybody is afraid of speeding right now because they're pretty sure they're not going to get pulled over. I just don't think that with how lax the the NIL rules were from the start and the way that as we've seen many times how long it actually takes to investigate and punish a school. You would assume people have been getting turned in for tampering and all sorts of stuff over the last couple of years, and you don't hear anything. You don't hear any cases or investigations or real progress or anything like that. So they're trying to lower the standard for themselves that it takes to go after a school, and I think that just has the potential to be a mess. But certainly right now you've got a mix of people who are just yeah, I'll believe when I see it, and you've got people who I think want to see there be punishment, but don't really know what that looks like going forward here.
Max, isn't there a fallacy in their argument of making the school prove it if they accuse them on conjecture? Because just because I can't prove it that you did also doesn't mean that I can't prove that I didn't. Much like if you believed in UFOs and I don't believe in UFOs, you can't prove to me 100% that they exist, nor can I prove to you 100% that they don't. And that seems to me like they'll wind up back in court.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're exactly right. I think there's a real problem there. And, especially when it comes to the pay-for-play stuff that I'm sure are concerned about and are trying to target here. Can you really go after the schools if it's, boosters or collectives that are doing contracts with student athletes? Not really, right? So I don't, I've heard of cases of people being turned in for tampering and we've got them dead to rights. We've got all this proof and stuff, and you don't hear anything. Nothing happens. So clearly, yeah, in some ways you'd say it'd be nice for there to be a more expedited process to this stuff, but you're exactly right. Are we really going to lower the bar so much that we get really silly in how we try to go after this thing?
Max, after a long wait, the Big 12 schedule finally released. There's much fanfare and created a lot of buzz and discussion around what otherwise might just been kind of a blip on the radar, quite frankly. But did you have any, immediate thoughts? Texas is going to Houston or who Oklahoma's playing. What jumped out to you from the Big 12 schedule release?
Yeah, it didn't really seem to evoke a lot of fanfare for the Texas or Oklahoma Twitter account. So hopefully they'll get the news on that here at some point and put it out to people. The thing to me, guys, when you're looking at it, because obviously in past years when it's a round robin and you're just kind of flipping the homes and aways and stuff in the past, the schedule release was kind of irrelevant. You could look at the dates and say, oh, this is good or bad or whatever, but everybody had equal schedules. And obviously next year, in 23 here, people do not have equal schedules. It was really interesting to see, for me, looking at each one and the 4 games they're not playing this season when you count all the new opponents in here. And, there's some interesting ones. It's just baffling that Oklahoma State is not going to play 4 of the Texas schools this season. That's just crazy. Same with, I think OU's only got the 1 against Texas. I think Cincinnati got a lot of really good breaks in terms of how their schedule goes and not having to play some of the best teams in the Big 12. I don't think Houston got a favorable break, but it was definitely a lot of fun to look at it. And honestly, guys, as of today, we don't really know the state of the divorce of Texas, Oklahoma, and the Big 12. But when I was looking at it, it did kind of bum me out a little bit just to think okay, we're not getting, Texas, Oklahoma State or, Oklahoma, Kansas State or some of these matchups that have given us like really good games pretty consistently over the last few years. Like we're not getting it in 23, and if we, if they leave in 24, could be a really long time before those schools are playing non-conference games again.
Max, your thoughts about their meeting, the Big 12 ADs, presidents, or whoever else, and your mark, of course, and company. The thought about Gonzaga and adding them perhaps as a way to reach out, and your mark's on record as saying he wants basketball to become kind of international. What are your thoughts about Gonzaga? Is that legitimate? They are obviously talking about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's where you kind of get into, the real question mark of like, what is Brett Yormark's vision for the Big 12 and how do you go execute it in the next few years, especially as like the Pac-12 situation feels like, it's sort of on hold here while they work through their media rights situation. I think his vision for the conference is certainly, bigger than just football and bigger than just the current brand. And so, I think at the time when this first popped up, what we'd heard on like the Gonzaga side was that they would want to go for more than just basketball. So, but can they do that in the Pac-12 or the Big 12? Like, I'm guessing probably not. You know what I mean? So I think that if Mark Few and Gonzaga are willing to go as basketball only, I think that's probably an important piece of this. Be very curious to see if that's a move that Brett Yormark feels like the conference should make in truly going from east to west here as a league. And if you do that, I guess what are the other basketball brands you go out and covet then?
Max, your column about quarterbacks transferring, it's one of those things where you kind of think like there's a lot of people doing that, but when you put it down and see the actual numbers of 126 of 168 quarterbacks have transferred, like it kind of staggered me. I had to like read that sentence about 4 or 5 times to really like, it is really that much.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah, I did this study 3 years ago at the end of 2019, just out of curiosity of like, it was at signing day and it was just like, all right, you just signed a quarterback. Like, what are the chances he stays? And, at the time, the transfer rate on quarterbacks for the top 50 quarterback recruits for the recruiting classes of 2014 through 2017, the transfer rate was 57%. And at the time, I felt like, okay, wow, that's pretty high. I'm a little surprised it's like actually a 50-50 like proposition here. And now it's 75%. That's just what we've got to here in the past few years. And obviously there's a bunch of rules and things that have changed that kind of contribute to that. But I mean, you guys have seen it, in Waco, obviously, where it's like, whenever you like think you've got a pretty good room and you've got a few options and you got a future and all that stuff, like, enjoy it while you can, because usually if you've got 3 or 4 pretty good ones, it's going to be down to 1 the next year. I mean, guys just don't want to wait for their turn to start, or because of the one-time transfer rule, just believe like if you're not getting on the field now in the first 2 years you're in a program, like you're probably going to move on. And we're even seeing guys that move on after 1 year. Really, I mean, it's just it's a different landscape now, and certainly as you see more and more transfers go win starting jobs at other places, like it just the like part of the interest to me was like when you hear the stories of Jaden Rashada or Nico, these guys that are getting these big contracts, like not really sure that there's a lot of ROI on doing deals for high school quarterbacks at this point.
There's a million examples I could use here, but Bryce Petty was born about a decade too early, Max. I mean, him sitting back as long as he did, waiting as long as he did, that would have, in this era, by the end of year 1 of waiting and looking at the depth chart, I mean, he could have had millions thrown at him. I mean, compared to how it is now, right?
Yeah, how many years would Nick Florence be a college starter if
right,
he moved on,
Yeah, it's crazy. One of the names you mentioned there, though, talking about quarterbacks, Jaden Rashada. He made his decision. He's going to go join Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. Your thoughts on the big splash for the Sun Devils?
Yeah, not surprised that that's like the final move for Jaden Rashada. His dad went there, and there's a lot of ties there. And Kenny Dillingham recruited Jaden Rashada, I believe, when he was at Florida State and last year at Oregon. So there's a real connection there, and I think a lot of trust on both sides. And I think that's really important after what the Rashada family went through with Florida. So I think it's overall like actually pretty similar and in some ways pretty good situation for Jaden Rashada, where you walk in there where they brought in Drew Pine from Notre Dame, who has starting experience. Obviously, they brought in Jacob Conover, who's the backup at BYU this last year. it seems like a pretty open competition there and a chance for Rashada to develop a little bit and maybe be a multi-year starter at Arizona State. Or we'll see. We'll see if this is just a stop for him and he's, he'll try and go somewhere else and make more money at a different school next year.
I mean, this is such a weird situation at Florida. Billy Napier said that, after all of this went down, his first press conference, signing day's press conference, that they looked at 24 other quarterbacks before they settle on Graham Mertz. I mean, I'm trying not to knock Graham Mertz, but we kind of know what he is after years.
I mean, you already said settle on Graham Mertz, so you've already said that. But keep going.
I'm already down the road. What would be going on with Billy Napier in year 2, where there should be some excitement about him, where the 24th quarterback they picked, or one of those 24, was Graham Mertz, and not somebody maybe better? Like, why are they not in it for Devin Leary or somebody like that?
Yeah, I think Florida was one of those, like, it was very obvious they were in the market for a transfer, and they were a school that was linked to, a guy like Grayson McCall, who had some great issues and had to go back to Coastal Carolina. They were certainly, like, interested in some of these guys, but, like, if they went in the portal, like a Sam Hartman or Michael Pratt from Tulane, and I think that ultimately it's like in the musical chairs game, like, the better guys went other places. Devin Leary goes to Kentucky, and like the more coveted players kind of chose other spots. And so, yeah, they took Graham Mertz, and that's kind of how it goes. Like, if you're really, obviously Anthony Richardson going as a redshirt sophomore is like one of those things you probably don't totally predict going into 22, but, then you have a need, and it's going to be an interesting competition where Graham Mertz is just a guy that just really did not get much better over the course of his time at Wisconsin. And I think a fresh start's probably good for him. But you really wonder, like, is he the guy? Is Jack Miller the guy? Like, can Florida go find somebody that can really get it done? Because, Anthony Richardson leaves pretty early in his career. I think he really could have taken a jump in 23, but instead of going pro and probably may end up being a first rounder just based off his tools. And so, yeah, Florida's in an interesting spot here where you don't really feel like they're loading up for a big run necessarily in year 2.
Max, thank you. As always, glad you got a chance to kind of just take a deep breath. We all need it.
Fix things around the house.
Well, we all need it. Yeah.
For sure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That's Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us. And